Hi folks, Canadian Prepper here. We got a doozy of a video for you today. We got to talk about everything under the sun because it's going down, man. It is getting scary. Okay, so where to start? If you guys didn't watch our video yesterday on how to grow food indoors, I encourage you to do that now more than ever. And why learn how to grow food indoors? Because if you can grow it indoors, you can easily grow it outdoors. And growing it indoors forces you to learn everything that goes in to simulating the ecosystem. So you got to simulate wind, you got to simulate light, you got to simulate all the nutrients and the fertilization in the soil, you got to simulate pollination and all of these things. So if you can grow it indoors, you can grow it outdoors. Now obviously, grow it outdoors first and foremost. This is an experimental thing for me because I live in Canada. I eventually plan on getting a passive solar greenhouse, so I want to make sure that I know what I'm doing when the time comes. But I was at the gun range today with my boy who's 7 years old. I went and bought him a gun, a 22 Little Rascal from Savage. And I had to fill out all this paperwork, and they got you putting emails and government websites and all this stuff. And I figure, you know what, we better get him trained before the shizzy goes down, because by the sounds of things, we don't have much time left. Okay, I want to also let you guys know, before we get into the big news of the day, we are selling Umarex Air Saber air bows now at CanadianPreparedness.com, faster than any crossbow on the market. You charge this up with air compressor. You need a specialized air compressor that we also sell. It's good for about 20 shots, incredibly powerful, super lightweight, super accurate, and best of all, you don't need a license yet. So get it while the getting is good, because quite frankly, after my discussion with Joel Skousen, if you don't know him, he's renowned in the preparedness community, prepper, political commentator, macroeconomist, if you will, and a lot of things he says makes me roll my eyes. Okay, there's some tinfoil there, but he also says some things that make the hair on the back of my neck stand up, because I know he is very, very close to the truth. And some of the predictions that he's made, and he has a very sensible macroeconomic outlook, which is scary, some of the predictions that he has. So we're gonna release that video probably tomorrow or the next day. And we're also going to be interviewing Peter Schiff in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. That should be very interesting if you guys know who Peter Schiff is. Now, we got to talk about some stuff today, guys. Big things are happening. It's starting to make sense to me what is going on in the world right now. So I'm going to share to my best capability what is going on with you. Now, you need to understand, World War III, wars, it never ended. World War III is just a continuation of World War II. You got to imagine it as a chessboard, okay? World War III started when the chess game began. The game has already been played for a long time. It involves trade wars, it involves sanctions, it involves espionage, it involves coups and puppet regimes and color revolutions, all of these things. Most people aren't going to call it World War III until the king is first put in check by the opposing side. And that's when it's going to get kinetic, and that's what we're going to call the start of World War III. But World War III has already started. It just hasn't went kinetic yet. And the reason why World War III is going to emerge is because we are running out of energy on the planet. It's going to be a major energy crisis. And it's not even so much that we're going to run out of energy. It's that we are going to, we've already picked all the low-hanging fruit. We don't have the time that is going to be required. We don't have the global cooperation that is going to be required. And so it's going to be a mad scramble to get what remains while the getting is good. And now that we're living in a multipolar world where you're going to have some of the biggest oil producers in the world on one side, and they're not on our side. We're talking about Venezuela, we're talking about Iran, we're talking about Russia, okay? All of these countries who ain't going to be on our side, who are some of the biggest energy producers in the world, and this is going to drive the price of energy sky high. Natural gas, the price is up nearly 700%. Okay, the amount of oil now that's required to get 1 barrel of oil is something like 4 to 1. It used to be 100 to 1. It used to be you invest 1 barrel of oil, you get 100 barrels of oil. Back in the good old days when, you know, you could strike oil anywhere. It was, you know, pressurized. It was easy to access. It was the good kind of crude that, you know, didn't require a lot of refinement and processing. Now with shale, you're getting like 2 barrels for every 1 barrel, and we've passed the peak of a lot of these things. The sanctions on Iran, that's going to raise the price of oil. The Saudis, a lot of people suspect that the Saudis have already peaked, and in terms of their ability to produce, and that they've been draining their own strategic oil reserves. The Biden administration has been draining the strategic oil reserves in the United States and sending it abroad. Why would they be sending it abroad? Probably because the United States needs a lot of stuff in order to function. A lot of people are saying, well, why are you sending it over there? Well, guess what? They're sending a lot of stuff to us. So it's kind of a tit for tat thing. You know, we can't function without a lot of the stuff that they're sending us, and they can't function. So, you know, you have to kind of balance domestic needs with your allies, because a lot of your domestic needs are tied to that. So, guys, this is a global resource war. I'm entirely convinced. And this is not just, you know, some kind of green-eyed idealism that's saying this. This is, you know, people at Bloomberg. This is the shale boss that says the U.S. has passed peak oil, says Parsley Energy CEO. I don't think I'll see 13 million barrels a day again in my lifetime, said Parsley's 37-year-old chief executive, Matt Gallagher. He's only 37, okay? So shale oil is not, maybe you're going to find a few more finds here and there. You're going to open up a few more drilling rigs, but, you know, the clock is ticking, and the developing world is only going to want more energy. So what are you going to tell the developing world? Oh, you can't develop now? Is that what this, you know, Klaus Schwab and all these Davos, World Economic Forum, are they going to force those countries not to develop? Because remember, myself and all of you watching this probably consume like 100 times the amount of energy as the average sub-Saharan African and person in, you know, the rural parts of India. Okay, when those countries start to develop, the demand, the thirst for energy, the thirst for resources, commodities, water, food are only going to increase. Food, in order to produce food, in order to fuel this green revolution, and by that I mean the actual green, like the mass agricultural revolution, you need energy inputs. If you don't have energy, people are going to starve. And that's what this big global war is truly about. At the end of the day, it's going to be about resources. And we're already seeing the dominoes start to collapse in the West, where all of our chess moves have backfired. Now, by the sounds of things, this is an article from a questionable source, but I'm going to read it anyways. I say questionable because it's a Russian news source. I'll just outright say that as a disclaimer. So we got to, you know, I don't think they're saying this to be provocative in any way, but I think they're just saying what Belarus is saying. Now, anybody out of Belarus, you got to take with a grain of salt at this point in the game, because they are pretty much a, not a puppet state, but a, I can't remember the term. Anyways, U.S. eyes direct war with Russia, according to a Belarusian military intelligence, the head of Belarusian military intelligence. The U.S. is making plans for a direct war against Russia and its ally. The other scenario is becoming more likely as the proxy war in Ukraine and other ways to hurt the two nations have failed. He said an escalation was becoming increasingly possible because the West is coming to the realization that traditional methods of hybrid aggression against Russia and Belarus are not producing the results that they want. And Putin today has said, in the end, there will be nothing left for negotiation, and we've not even seriously begun to fight yet. Remember, they haven't mobilized their entire military. They're only using 15%. Yes, they did evoke some emergency powers recently to kick their weapons production into full swing, because I do believe that they are starting to run low on certain supplies. It's only natural to expect if you're firing off 60 to 70,000 artillery rounds a day, you are going to start running short eventually. You can only sustain that for so long. So they need to be pumping out these weapons around the clock. And the war is about to expand. Basically, what Putin is saying here is that we're not stopping at the Donbass. We're going into Western Ukraine. The Belarusians think that the Poles, that the U.S. is going to try to intervene through Poland, I believe. And that, what do they say exactly? They think that Poland is going to try to annex or help secure part of Ukraine, and that is going to bring Belarus into the war, which is going to, that's going to be where NATO and Russia meet up. It's going to be interesting to see what happens as a result of Boris Johnson no longer being in power. Are they going to be as hawkish? Are they going to be less hawkish? Of course, there's going to be election, and it's going to be a contentious issue. So it will be put up to debate, but it's also interesting to see how it's hurting us more than it's hurting them. I mean, you don't see, people might say it's because they're a dictatorship or whatever. You don't see, leaders being ousted in Russia. You see leaders being ousted in Britain. You see, the U.S. is on the brink of civil war in many respects. I mean, that might be a bit hyperbolic, but, in light of everything that's happened in the last 10 years, it's safe to say that there's a lot of potential for civil unrest. There's a lot of potential for financial unrest, inflation, okay? The cost of oil and everything else is getting out of control, and it's only going to get worse. And the more research I do into this oil and energy situation, that is only going to intensify it. We cannot rely on solar, wind, even nuclear or hydro, okay? The rivers are drying up. It takes 10 to 20 years to build nuclear power plants. It is going to, all of the low-hanging fruit for natural gas, for oil, has all been picked, okay? So every well that we dig now is producing less and less. It's, and the ones that we've already tapped, they're already past their peak production. Solar and wind require immense amounts of initial investment of energy in order to produce. That's why I'm saying if you can get solar or wind now, do it now. If you can, look, if you have the money, you need to have a place off the grid. You need to have a place that's away from the city. If you live in the city, you need to take whatever money you have, buy a piece of land outside the city. I'm not saying you have to uproot your life. I think the most rational solution for a lot of people is to have a cabin somewhere far away that you can have access to if you have the resources. That's the ideal setup. And that is completely self-sufficient. You have a water source, okay? You have the capability to grow food, to perhaps have some animals, of course, to have electricity if possible, because energy is everything. With energy, I'm guilty as charged. I've been playing this game called Fallout in my Tesla because, we got a Tesla for the company because the government gives us this little incentive to do so. And Elon Musk has a dark sense of humor. That guy's the biggest prepper in the world. I mean, you think about Starlink, you think about the boring, the digging tunnels, under the earth, the Mars thing, going to Mars because the earth is going to be screwed because the AI is going to take over. This Tesla Cybertruck, built for like the dystopian apocalypse. Anyways, one of the games that's built into the car is Fallout. Not the Fallout with the 3D Fallout, but the one like Fallout Shelter, you play on your phone and you dig these subterranean Fallout shelters and you have to manage it. And the first thing you need in the game is energy. You need electricity because electricity is what is going to power your grow lights to grow food. If you have energy, you can do anything. So long as we have electricity, we can turn seawater into drinkable water. We can use that converted seawater to make arable land and to get soil. So long as we have energy, we can do anything. But if you don't have energy, that's the first input into the system. That's why energy and commodities in general and gold are going sky high. I firmly believe they're going sky high. And we're also going to be interviewing Peter Schiff next month. So stay tuned for that. He's probably one of the biggest gold bugs. And look forward to seeing what he has to say because he's been talking about the shizzy hitting the fizzy for a long time. You guys are going to enjoy that one, and you're going to enjoy the Joel Skousen interview, because some of the things he says are out of sync with the usual run-of-the-mill tinfoil hattery that you hear. He's got some interesting ideas, though, I'll tell you that much. And this is also interesting, too. The U.S. dollar is doing really, really well right now, okay? It's the highest it's been, I think, since the year 2000. So that is concerning, because whenever the shit's hitting the fan around the world, or whenever it's about to, this goes sky high, okay? Because the US dollar is one of the strongest currencies. It still is the global reserve currency. And because of that, people flock to it in times of distress. When other countries are suffering hyperinflation, people flock to the US dollar. Now, I believe that part of the reason why the price of gold is down is because the US dollar has gone up. See, whenever the US dollar is kind of low, the price of gold tips upwards, because gold is really just a reflection. The US dollar is a reflection of the price of gold, and vice versa. So I think that that's part of the reason why we're seeing these drops in gold right now. But I'm confident that the price of gold is going to go up. That's just my personal opinion. I'm also confident that the price of oil ain't going to dip much below $100 for the foreseeable future. If anything, it's going sky high, especially if NATO tries this price cap scheme with Russia. Then it is going to the moon, because oil is life. Right now, oil, coal, even wood to some extent, energy is king. And it's going to become blisteringly apparent when, the food trucks just stop rolling in. So I've been researching tons of articles here on peak oil. I watched a presentation by Chris Martenson the other day, which kind of piqued my interest in the whole topic. And, this idea of sanctioning Iran is just ridiculous at this point in time. I mean, it's almost as if they're trying to crash the global economy. I know lots of you are going to run with that soundbite right there. Who knows? The gasoline refineries are running full steam at 95% of their capacity, so they're going to run into maintenance issues. Even the Gazprom pipeline is being shut down from July 10th to the 21st for maintenance. And this is an annual thing. This is an annual maintenance they do. But a lot of people are worried that this is the point where, NATO is going to capitulate. And if NATO capitulates, guess what? Russia walks over Ukraine, walks over the entirety of Ukraine, and where are they going to go next? They're probably going to look eastward. Because imagine, the map is going to change. And a lot of people don't realize that yet, but the map of Russia is going to change with Ukraine, okay? They're going to be Ukraine, Belarus, and Russia all in one. Now, going back to that metaphor about the chess game, okay, we need to understand that this is World War III, okay? We're already in World War III. We don't know which stage of it, but eventually somebody is going to get checked, okay? And that's when things go kinetic. It looks as though my battery is dying and I only got 5%. Sorry guys, I've just been busy. I've been busy prepping my ass off because the shizzy gonna hit the fizzy. And I got better things to do than make these kind of videos, but we gotta keep ourselves apprised of what is happening. So that's what we got for you guys today. Looks like Russia is only getting started. Belarus claims that the United States is planning a war against them in Ukraine, not a proxy war, but a big, big war. And I believe that the clock is ticking. So you best be prepping and focus on your health. Like right after this, I got to go to the gym. I got to get it in, man. I ain't getting any younger. And if you can't run and gun, if you think you're going to be out there with a big backpack full of gear and guns and all this stuff and, running and gunning and even working under the hot sun in the fields to grow your food and tend to your animals, you're delusional if all you do is sit on the computer all day. So I'd encourage you strongly, please, look after your health, okay? Get your medications from Jace Case, get your antibiotics. We're going to be working with Jason again in the near future, because it's going to allow you to get your stockpile of prescription medications for after the proverbial shizzy hits the fizzy. Don't forget, pick up an Air Saber bow system. Whoa! Pick up an Air Saber bow system and the air compressor from CanadianPreparedness.com. Use discount code SurvivalPrepper for 10% off. We also have a special on Sam Medical products, because guess what? The government's sticking their nose in things once again, and I guess they only want big corporations to be licensed to sell certain types of medical products, like hemostatic gauzes that have the chitosan, it's like the seashell stuff that for blood clotting, the tourniquets, what else? Junctional tourniquets. Go check out all that stuff. We're selling for 20% off. We got to get rid of it because Justin Trudeau doesn't want us to sell it anymore. All right. Can't sell bear spray. You can't sell, you can't sell guns. What can you do? I mean, as far as I know, they still got some gun rights in Russia. And, it's interesting how the tables turn, isn't it? Stay safe, folks, because 0 day is coming. Thanks for watching. Canadian Prepper out.